Hello, and welcome back to another episode of Riff and Tear, a subsidiary of Diatonic Dissection, where we crack open the giant guts of music to see what makes it tick. In this video, we'll be looking at Blood Red from Doom the Dark Ages, which accompanies your tearing through the Sentinal Barracks after getting one of the most interesting weapons ever produced in the Doom series, the Skull Crusher, which is the most literal name it could have been given. Usual YouTube stuff. Like, comment, subscribe, ring the bell, etc. and gamble in the library in the name of the algorithm gods. If you want the sheet music for this video, as well as my previous ones, then head on over to the Patreon, patreon.com/diatonicdissection. There is a link down below to save you having to spell it out. For a track like Blood Red, I had to bust out my own Blood Red guitar. It's an 8-string and the tuning is down a tone and a half, so here it is on screen. Now, let's get started. The tempo is 85 BPM and the key is something like D sharp minor, but I'm not sure. Section A is only guitar and it plays the theme that you'll be hearing throughout the track. You have more of a guitar part for section B along with some drums. Get your picking hand ready as you'll be doing a lot of Herta variations. Quick primer, a Herta is a rhythm that is 2 notes followed by another 2 notes that are twice the duration. I explained it over in this video, so go watch that afterwards and get my view numbers up. Also, here is an actual example from that video. Now, with that explanation out of the way, let's get into the guitar part, where you'll be playing a riff that is repeated throughout the entire track. In addition to the Hertas with your picking hand, you'll also be doing some stretching from frets 2 to 5. This kind of stretch is kind of like a third inversion of a B something 7 arpeggio, as the notes involved are B flat, B, and G flat/F sharp. As there isn't a third, we can't be entirely sure whether it is a major 7 or a minor major 7, but given we're in the key of D sharp minor, I think, we'll say it's probably a major 7. For the drums, I have a confession to make, and that is that they are completely programmed for this track. I have a very long-standing injury in my left quadricep from battering it with a pair of drumsticks many years ago. This injury in the past led me to needing a walking stick when I was in my mid-20s as a result, and practicing these parts I could feel the injury returning. Disclaimer aside, let's talk about the drums. Like the guitar, you're playing a part that serves as a rhythmic theme. This is all done over 16th notes on the kick, so at this tempo it is very difficult, yet incredibly important to keep it steady. In Section C, the guitars are playing more of the same from Section B with the Hertas and the stretch, but there is a little bit extra with a descent from E to C sharp. drums have you channeling Demiurge by Meshuggah as you're playing on the downbeat, along with the rhythmic theme on the toms. Keep an eye out for the 30-second note flourishes on the kick. The guitar part for section D involves more hurters and the stretchers, so not much to say except that there is a half note bend down or release, I don't know what you call it. You start with the bend and then go down to the note in question. It's slightly difficult in the tuning as you need to go from the first fret to the open D sharp, so you could just slide after all. For the drums on section D, you're doing roughly the same thing as you were in section B, so not an awful lot to say, except there are no more 30-second note flourishes. Now we get something new in section D. Hooray! Some orchestral performance involving strings, choir and tubular bells. The chords alternate between D sharp minor and D sharp sus2 flat 5 in the choir, and the strings are playing a melody on top which will appear along with these chords in section F. Now that we're done being all cultured, let's be stupid. The drum part initially reminded me of something you might hear introduce an indie track from the 2000s. I'm thinking particularly We Are Scientists' debut album With Love and Squalor, which still holds up today and I cannot recommend enough. So, with some adaptation, we have an indie interpretation of section D. Now, in In section E, you're playing a mixture of previous riffs for the section, including Herters, the inverted B major 7, and the stretch. However, in the latter half, you get to do some slightly neoclassical / heavy metal twiddles. The E to C sharp bit at the end is now a power chord as opposed to a single note, as it was in section C. In the second half of section E, you get to do some more groove-based playing on drums. However, to get to that point, you have to do something that's a bit thrashier. This is the part that screwed my leg up, so enjoy. If you move the first drum part by half a bar, you get the standard thrash drum beat. So let's be stupid again and adapt this into thrash. Section F doesn't have anything in terms of guitar and a little bit of drum stuff at the end, but it does have some more interesting orchestral stuff. I won't go into the specifics of the orchestration as that would take eons to figure out and to explain, but most of the chords are the same as they were for the orchestral section of D, where it moves from a D sharp minor to a D sharp sus 2 flat 5, but it also has some other chords towards the end. When the drums kick in, the chords become G sharp minor, F sharp, F, which resolves to an A sharp minor, which leads very neatly to section G. drums appear in the last few bars of F just to emphasise the downbeat and then to play the tom rhythm/theme leading into section G. Section G is essentially a return of Section C, Hurters, Stretch, and the E to C sharp ending, the whole shebang. Not much else to say really, so let's go. Like the guitar, the drums are pretty much the same as Section C, so here you are. And now for the final section. The guitar gets a new riff that features a bit more movement than we've seen so far in the track, as well as something beyond a power chord. The chords in this riff are an A sharp power chord, an A sharp power chord with a flat 5, and then an inverted B power chord. There are also some power chords, but these are the full 3-string ones, which accounts for the higher notes you can hear. The section finishes out with the same melody from section A to close things out. drums are doing more downbeats, but with the tom theme thrown in just to confuse matters. You accompany the return of Section A with the kick at the end. And that's it. Another 5 or so minutes of music stretched into God knows how much analysis. As always, like, comment, subscribe, ring the bell, all the standard YouTube stuff. Fly a kite in public in the name of the algorithm gods. If you want the sheet music for this video, as well as my others, then head on over to the Patreon, patreon.com/diatonicdissection. There's a link down below to save you trying to spell it out. Thanks for watching if you're still here, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye!